Good evening, everyone. This is going to be a quick video about some of the fundamentals of a flipped classroom and some steps that you can take to implement it into your classroom. So first of all, let's talk about who came up with this model. In 2007, Aaron Sams and Jonathan Bergman were the initial creators of the flipped classroom model, and they wrote this great book a little while ago. It's called Flip Your Classroom, and I would highly recommend it. It's available here at Edufest through the bookstore, and then also you can get more resources online through flippedlearning.org. So the flipped classroom in a nutshell is this. Instruction that is traditionally done at home, in class is now done at home, and then that work which is traditionally done at home is now done in class. So if you think about a typical lesson that you have, what you'll have is usually a bell ringer or some sort of warm-up, and then you will have 15 to 20 minutes of instruction that you're going to deliver to kids with some of the essential things that they need to know. And then after that, you'll have some sort of assignment, practice of skills, or some sort of project or inquiry-based learning attached to that. Now, in a flipped classroom, what you will have is your direct instruction piece is now moved outside of the classroom. The kids access the videos or podcasts at home or in their individual learning space, and then when they come to class, they're working on project-based learning, inquiry-based learning, things that are hands-on or exploratory, or practicing those skills with their teacher available to them. So I'm going to show you a really quick video. This is Aaron Sams, and he's going to talk about what the flipped classroom looks like for him in his chemistry class.
I'm Aaron Sams. We're here in Woodland Park, Colorado at Woodland Park High School. Flipped learning, I think, on a really basic level is taking what has traditionally been given in a lecture in terms of direct instruction and shifting that out of the class time, and then using that recuperated time more wisely, more valuably to really meet the individual learning needs of students. The way I got started doing this is I just started recording my lessons live for my students who were missing class and posting those online for them as a resource. They get to access it when they want to, and that could be at 10 o'clock at night, it could be 6 o'clock in the morning, it could be on the bus to the soccer game. They have control of that. Students would watch those before they came to class, and the class time was work time, engaging in some higher order thinking, and so we didn't have to use our class time for direct instruction. We could shift that out of the class.
There's a site where we go to and we watch our podcast, and it has like all the units.
And during the class period, we're doing labs and applying the skills that we learned at home.
I wish more people would do the flipped classroom. I think it definitely works for every speed of learner.
If a student is a fast learner, they can go through the material as quickly as they want. The slower learners, the students who struggle, they have control of the rate at which they learn the materials. So they can pause the teacher, they can rewind the teacher, they can view it multiple times if they need to. If everyone's not doing the same thing at the same time on the same day, my class looks a little chaotic. It looks like a three-ring circus of learning is what I call it. I also give them the option, if they don't want to take my test, to demonstrate their understanding some other way. So I have students making video games, writing comic books, creating art projects. So yeah, the sky's the limit. Whatever they want to do, as long as they can prove to me that they get it, that they're learning, that they understand these things, then it's good enough for me. There's a school in Michigan that has adopted this instructional model for all of their core classes. What they're seeing there is that their failure rates have gone from like in the 40% down to single digits. So that's pretty remarkable there. One of the concerns that educators are really wrestling with these days is the fact that we are preparing our students for jobs that don't exist yet. And I really see flipped learning as a tool that teachers can leverage to help students learn to think, learn to access information when they need it, and to be able to process it in a meaningful way. So I might not be training my kids for a specific job, but I'm giving them the tools, the ability to think in the process and the problem solve that they will need for whatever they end up doing.
So to piggyback off of what Aaron Sams was talking about, let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits of the flipped classroom and why you would implement it in your class. First of all, it allows for instructional pace to be differentiated, and you guys know how important that is for especially our gifted learners, but also for our learners who struggle. The thing that I found when I implemented it in my math class is that class time now becomes available for hands-on and project-based inquiry learning. It was amazing how I actually had time to get to those projects in every single unit that I normally didn't get to. Another piece that was critical was that students who don't have support at home are now able to be successful with their homework. If you take the time to teach kids how to watch the videos and take notes ahead of time, then those kids that normally don't have parents at home that can help them are still able to do the homework and come to class prepared. And then the quality of your student-teacher interaction is maximized. So think about how much of your time is spent talking at the kids or delivering information versus interacting with the kids. In a flipped classroom model, just about 100% of your time is actually spent interacting with the kids and facilitating their learning rather than delivering content. Let's talk a little bit about the videos. There are a lot of benefits to the videos, however, the videos are not the flipped classroom model, and I want to be very specific, very clear about that, because a lot of people think that, oh, the flipped classroom is all about the videos, but no, the videos are a way for you to flip your classroom. They are the means by which you flip your classroom, but they aren't the flipped classroom. The benefits of the videos are simply this. First of all, students can pause, rewind, or replay the videos as many times as they need to. Kids can access the videos for test preparation. Before, I used to tell kids that, we have a test coming up on Friday and go home and study. Now I could be very specific and say, we have these 5 videos related to this unit. Go back and re-watch those and double check your notes to make sure that you are clear about that content. The third piece is that the use of technology really hits home for our students. We're now teaching a generation of kids who grew up with smartphones and internet access and YouTube. I mean, for goodness sakes, my 16-month daughter can open her own apps on my iPad. And so we're really teaching a different generation of kids. And so using the technology is really just speaking their language. Students who understand concepts quickly don't get bored as the teacher explains the concepts over again. You guys know those GT kids who get bored, get frustrated when they have to sit through and listen to an explanation to a kid about a concept that they already understand. You know that they then check out and then they start causing behavior problems. It also allows kids who are overachievers, those kids that have a really busy home life, the ability to access the essential understanding. So if you think about those kids who are missing class because of a fiddle competition or a soccer game, they can now access that information and still walk away with those essential understandings and those concepts even if they miss class. And the fact that content is available to students and quite frankly to parents 24 hours a day is a huge benefit. Now I want to talk a little bit about some of the myths about the flipped classroom. First of all, a flipped classroom is not an online class, and I want to be very clear about that. It's not a class all on technology. Secondly, it does not replace teachers with videos. The flipped classroom, good quality teachers are a critical piece of the flipped classroom because now that time that you have to interact with your kids is not just lecturing. I mean, quite frankly, anyone can lecture at a group of people, but good quality teachers in a flipped classroom are critical because your entire face-to-face time with kids is now exploratory, inquiry-based, and it needs to be high-quality interaction. Students working without structure is not a flipped classroom. In a flipped classroom, there is a lot of structure because you are juggling so many pieces. A flipped classroom is not kids working in isolation, and quite frankly, the flipped classroom is not an easy button for good instruction. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but if you walked in here hoping that this is going to make your life easier, it's not. It will make your instruction better, and it will be a mechanism that you can use to bring in those project-based activities, inquiry learning, exploratory activities that are critical for all of our kids and especially our gifted learners. Here are some reasons not to flip your classroom. Because you think it's easier, it's not going to be easier. It takes hard work just as any good teaching does. Don't flip your classroom simply because everyone is doing it. If you don't have buy-in into this model, it's not going to work for you. And don't flip your classroom just for the sake of technology. There are lots of ways to incorporate technology into your classroom, and if you're doing it simply for that reason, think again, because like I said, it's not going to be an easy model to implement, but it is a better model. So let's look really quickly at a block of time. So this is based off of a 90-minute high school class. So in a traditional 90-minute block, you might have a 5-minute warm-up activity, 20 minutes of time spent on going over the previous night's homework, 30 minutes of time spent on lecture or delivering new content, and then the remainder of class, however much time you have, is spent on a lab activity, guided practice, working on the skills that you talked about. In a flipped classroom, it looks very different. You have your 5-minute warm-up or your bell ringer, then you have 10 minutes of question and answer based on the activity from beforehand. And then you have your 75 minutes of that inquiry-based, the project-based learning, the lab activities, really the learning that really matters. And this is what I was talking about, just the fact that good quality teaching is necessary. Now most of your class period is spent doing this, and that is the hard part of teaching, but it's also the most rewarding part of teaching. Now there is a drawback, and so one of the drawbacks of a flipped model is the fact that students cannot ask immediate questions that come to their mind when they're watching the video. So there are a few ways that you can tackle that. First of all, training your kids how to watch the videos is critical. Depending on which classroom online portal you're going to use, you may or may not have the ability for your kids to ask questions or to write down their questions immediately after they watch the video. So this is one drawback of the model, and like I said, there are multiple ways to tackle it, and you're going to have to decide in your classroom how you're going to approach this. Now, to get started, I talked about how the videos are going to be a mechanism for you to implement the strategy. So you're going to need 3 things. First of all, you're going to need some sort of video production or screencasting software. Basically, how are you going to record your videos? Then you're going to decide where are you going to post your videos. A lot of teachers use YouTube, some use Vimeo, some use Screencast-O-Matic. There's lots of places where you can post your videos. Depending on what your district will and will not allow you to use, you're going to have to make that decision. And thirdly, you're going to have to figure out which online class portal you're going to use. There's Blackboard, Edmodo, Moodle, Verso. There's lots out there. And so later in our class today, I'm going to let you explore some of those. So those are some of the basics. We'll have more discussions, and I'm excited that you are here learning about how you can flip your classroom.